Guys, welcome you all. This is Shakti from Shakti Academy. Please like our video and share. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. Press bell icon so that you could get updated videos of our channel. Right? Hello guys, now we are going to discuss about the third lesson, Deep Water by William Orwell Douglas, right? So the author introduction is William Orwell Douglas was an American writer who was born in the United States of America, and initially he was a judge of the Supreme Court in the United States of America, and he spent plenty of years for giving justice to the people, right? So initially the Deep Water is the motivational story of William Orwell Douglas, which he has taken from his autobiography of Men and Mountain, which means this story has taken an autobiography of William Orwell Douglas. The name of the autobiography was Of Men and Mountain, right? Of Men and Mountain was the autobiography of William Orwell Douglas, right? So before we discuss in the text, let's we discuss the summary of the lesson, the Deep Water. In the story, he tells about his fear of water and later how he conquered it by the determination and his willpower, right? So as a child, when he was 3 or 4 years old, he would go to beach in California with his father, and there he will get a fear by seeing the big waves. Initially, in the seashores, the big waves used to come, no? So here the William Douglas used to get a fear of the big waves, and a few years later his eagerness, then he created the eagerness to learn swimming, and also he joined in the swimming pool. There he met many problems with other bullies, like other boys. Sometimes the other boys used to push him into the water, and there he got experienced and he reached till the death, right? So which means he did not die, but he reached till death, and he got a good experience with other boys. Then later many years with the fear of the other boys, he thought of going fishing and swimming, and but as soon as later he created the habit of learning swimming, and he joined in the swimming pool again, and with the help of an instructor in the swimming pool, he learned well like other boys, and then he started swimming in the big lakes and the waterfalls and everywhere. So finally he had destroyed his fear of water, and he achieved his desire, right? So this is the summary of the Deep Water. Let's we discuss the text. So guys, previously we have discussed about the introduction of an author and the content of the Deep Water, right? So let's we discuss the text. So here the narrator of the story was an author, William Douglas, who got much interest to learn swimming. At the time got a fear to learn swimming, right? So here the I refers the narrator, right? I refers the narrator, which means William Douglas. So when he was at the age of 10 or 11 years old, that time he decided to learn swimming. So there was a swimming pool which was near his household, okay, which was near his house. That's nothing but YMCA swimming pool, right? YMCA is nothing but the Young Man Christian Association, right? Young Man Christian Association. So here he wanted to learn swimming, so which is located in the city of Yakima, right? So Yakima is one of the city which is locating in the Washington, United States of America, and here the swimming pool of YMCA is offering the exact opportunity to learn swimming for the age categories of 10 to 11 years old, right? So here previously, before that, the mother of author, right? The mother of author used to warn him to not to go to the Yakima river, which is often considered as one of the dangerous river. Also sometimes the mother used to share some of the drowning incidents which happened in the river with the author, right? So finally the author decided to choose YMCA swimming pool, since it was one of the safe safe swimming pool in the city. So actually it won't be much deep like others. So actually the deep is nothing but only 3 or 4 feet, right? Only 3 or 4 feet deep in the swimming pool. So it's very easy to learn. At the end of the side, only the 9 feet deep. So like not others, it's not like Yakima river. So it's very safe to learn swimming. So finally he decided to select YMCA swimming pool, right? So here after that he got a pair of water wings, and he went to the swimming pool. And initially he hated to walk with a naked. As you know that when you want to learn swimming, so that time time it's compulsory that you want to wear the swimming dress for the comfortable swimming, right? So here, since he was a very skinny boy and the skinny leg, so that's what he was very ashamed to walk in a naked into the show his skinny leg. So even though he refused, I mean neglected his shame and everything, but with his pride he started walking in the swimming pool, right? So from the beginning, however, I had an aversion to the water when I was in it. This was when I was 3 or 4 years old. The father took me to the beach in California, right? So as we discussed previously that he had he had much interest to learn swimming. At the same time, he got a fear on water. So why did fear created on this author is nothing but when he was at the age of 4 or 3 years. So that time his father used to take him to the beach of California, and there he used to stand in front of the sea waves. So that time the sea waves started knocked him, and he swept away of the water, and he was buried in the water, and his breath was gone, and he was started getting fear, which means frightened, and his father started laughing at him. But the terror which made his heart to overpowering force of the waves, right? So his introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived the unpleasant memory and strived a childish fear. But in a little while I gathered a confidence. I paddled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn by upping them. So this is introduction of author to entering in the YMCA swimming pool. There he entered with the fear of this childish fear, and there the many other boys like they were good in swimming. They started to do swimming, and during that time the author tried to copy them by tried to learn by copying them, right? So actually here the author did 2 or 3 times on a different days. It was just a beginning when he was beginning to learn swimming. So he felt that the water is a adventure, so that it happened, right? So I went to the pool when no one else was there. The place was quiet, the water was still, and the tiled bottom was an white and clean with clean as a bathtub. So as you know that when you enter the swimming pool, here the bottom of the swimming pool you could see the bottom clearly, since the water is fully cleaned with the chlorine water and it fully tiled, okay, it fully tiled, right? So here, as you know that when the author entered the swimming pool, that time no one was there, so he started sitting quiet and he was waiting for other boys to come, right? So after the boys came, then he had one of the man like a big bruiser. Okay, big bruiser boy is nothing but a big boy who was probably nearly 18 years old, and he had very thick hair on his chest, and he has very beautiful beautiful physician specimen, and with his legs and arms he showed a ripple muscle, and he yelled, "Hi skinny." So here the big man asked the narrator that, "Hi skinny, how do you do to be dug?" Right? So with that he picked me up and tossed me into the deep water and I landed on the sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once in the bottom, right? So once the big man asked the author that, "Hi skinny," after that the big man took the author and he thrown the author on the water. So once in the end, actually here the 9 feet are there now in the end. So in the 9 feet he landed that bottom in the sitting position, and he swallowed some of the water, and he went once in the bottom, and he got a fear, and he started with his using his knowledge he started coming out of the water, and he's trying big jumps. So he's making big jumps and other things. All the things are happened, but all the things were failed, right? So it seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were 19 feet, right? So actually the inside, one side was like a 2 to 3 feet, and another side will be 9 feet, right? So here he thought that the 9 feet will be a 90 feet before he touched the bottom, and his lungs were ready to burst, and he got, especially he were totally sunk with the fear of the water. And after that he used his strength for getting away from the water, and he imagined that the surface is like a crook, and instead he came up slowly and he opened his eyes and he saw nothing but water, right? So once he sunk inside the water, he opened his eyes, but he couldn't see anything except the water, and the water that the dirty yellow thing to it. The grew panically. I reached up, the grabbed the rope of my hands and clutched on the water. I was suffocating. He was very trying to catch the rope which is locating inside the swimming pool, and he tried yelled, no sound come out. Actually inside the water he started shouting, but we couldn't hear any sound away from the water. So and his eyes and nose come out of the water, and but his mouth is not coming out of the water, which means since he was a very small boy and he who fallen in the 9 feet, right? So he failed at his surface of the water, and he swallowed some of the water, as well as he try to bring his legs up, but he started hanging on his dead weights. So he totally he was paralyzed, which means without any movements, the body of the author was totally paralyzed, and he with his great force he started to come out, pulling him to started coming out, and he screamed, started shouting, but here inside the water nobody couldn't hear on outside, right? So here he stuck the water and he went down, expending his strength once, and the nightmare fights and irresistible force, and he had lost all of his breath, and his lungs started paining, and his head started troubling, which means the water had gone inside his nose and mouth, no? So and his head started paining, and he was getting dizzy, and but he remembered the strategy that he wanted to spring up, he would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a croc on the surface. So he would lie on the water and stroke out with his arms, right? So he finally with his knowledge he used to lie on the water, and he wanted to stroke his arms like a swimming, right? So after that and the trash with my legs, then I would go to the edge of the pool and be safe. So finally he decided to swim by lying his body on the water, and started striking out his arms and trashing his legs and everything. But he went down endlessly. He opened his eyes, but nothing he could see but the only yellow glow, the dark water that one could not see through, which means the fully surrounded with the water, he could not see anything other than the water, right? So that time he met the terror, right? That time he met the terror, which means the terror seized him. So here he mentioned the 3 words, that the terror that knows the understanding, the terror that knows the control, and the terror that no one can understand who was not experienced in it, right? So until you experience it with the terror, you cannot explain the word of the terror. So here the author explained the 3 sentence about the terror is nothing but the terror that knows the understanding, the terror that knows the control, the terror no one can understand who has not experienced with it, right? So he was totally paralyzed inside the water, and with his fear he started screaming, and his throats were frozen, right? He continuously shouting because other could see no. So even though he was inside the water, but in the swimming pool you could get the plenty of noises so that other people couldn't hear his voice, but by doing the continuous shouting, his throat became frozen, and only his heart is pounding me that dead hit, and said that he was still live, which means only the heart is beating laptop, and he couldn't go out, and he couldn't make others to listen his voice. But even though he's only his heart is telling that he is living, right? Then after that he remembered to jump with his hit of the bottom. At last he felt tireless under me, and his toes reached out, and even though what are the things he have used, everything become fail, right? But the jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for the ropes, ladders, water wings. Note down. So during when he was in the water, he tried to look for the ropes, ladder, and the water wings, but nothing he could see except the water, right? So after that, the mass of the yellow water held me, and the stark terror took an even the deeper holder on me like a great charge of the electricity. I shook and trembled with fright. My arms wouldn't move, my legs wouldn't move. I tried to call for help, called for mother, and nothing happened, right? So with the great fear and the great pain of lungs, head, and other things, he started continuously shouting and asking help for some other people in the swimming pool, but nobody could hear. So even he called his mom for help, but nothing happened, which means nobody could listen his words, right? So after that he wanted to come away from the awful yellow water. At last his eyes were almost out to, which means his eyes become started burning, and he couldn't open his eyes. Even his nose, he couldn't breathe properly inside the water. So finally he started in the third started down in the third time, and he stuck for a hair and got water, the yellowish light and going out. So once inside, he was inside the water. Since he was inside the water and he started to breathe, so during that time the water gone inside his mouth, okay, inside his mouth, and after the water gone inside his mouth, now he became in a more trouble, right? So then all efforts ceased, then he relaxed, even his legs felt lame, then he needs some relaxation, as well as his brain and his hand, legs, everything would get tired by trying to come away from the water. And since he was more panic about the water, and he wanted to relax himself, right? He wanted to relax himself, otherwise he will die, right? So it was a quiet and a peaceful, nothing to be afraid of. This is a nice to be drawn to go to sleep, no need to jump, so too tired of the jump. So here finally he thought to sleeping by floating on the space of the water. But here what happened? Nothing could happen. So the next he remembered to lying on his stomach on the pool, but he feels like vomiting and other things. So during that time, when he were in the condition of the dead, right, one of the kid and one of the man who was in the swimming pool saw him that this kid is nearly dead, be all right, let's carry him to the locker room, right? So after that, one of the man from the swimming pool had noticed the author that he is in a dead condition inside the water, and all the people were carrying him away from the water, and they all took him to the locker room, and there they give some first aid and other things. Finally he however all right. So after that, several hours later, he started walking to his house. Even though he was very weak and trembling, he shook and cried when I lay on my bed, which means once he entered the house, he started fall on the bed, and he started shaking his head and crying about the incident what happened that day. And he couldn't eat that night for days and hunting fear, which means for many days he is thinking about the incident which happened in the swimming pool, and his heart is often thinking about the incident, and he was very upset about him, and he couldn't do anything. His knees and the legs, hands and the stomach started paining about that, right? So but after that he never went back to the swimming pool, because since he was feared of the water, and he avoided it whenever he could, right? So after the few years later, when he know the water of the cascades, and he wanted to get into them, and whenever I was wading the Titan or bumping the river or bathing in the warm lake or the goat rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back, right? So once the incident happened, then after several years he had not gone to swimming pool for the practice. So whenever he used to bath in the river, bath in the lakes and the river of the bumping river, and the bathing in the warm lake or goat rocks, so during that time, whenever he used to walk in the bath in the water, he used to remember the incidents of the terror which seized him in the swimming pool would come back, right? So it would the oppression of the meat, and completely his leg would become paralyzed, and the icy horror would grab his chest and other things. So this handicap stayed with me as his years rolled by. It canoes the marine lakes, fishing and the landlocked salmon, and bass fishing the New Hampshire, and trout fishing on the Dutchess and the Marlians Ocean, and fishing for salmon and the Columbia, but bumping lake in the Cascades. Cascade, whenever I went, the haunting fear of the fear followed me. So initially here the author used to go for fishing in the different lakes and the rivers like Motales and Ocean and Solomon and other places, but whenever he used to go to the place or lake of the Cascades, he used to remember the thing which happened in the swimming pool, right? So after that he used every day that he knows to overcome the fear of the water, but he held me firmly in the grip. Finally on October he decided to get an instructor to learn the swimming, which means he wanted to keep a special instructor for him to learn swimming. So as his thought, he kept a special instructor to learn swimming. So he went to the pool and practiced 5 days a week, so each hour 1 day, right? Each day 1 hour, and their instructor put a belt around him, and the instructor used to tie the rope on his hip, and due to that he will be safer and he won't be seeing, so that he could easily learn the swimming, right? So after that he used to hold the end of the rope and with his back and the forth and the back and across the pool, and hour after hour, the day after day, the week after week, on his trip across the pool in the bit of the panic seized him, which means after that he come out away from the panic which was seized in the swimming pool, and each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and went under, and when old terror returned on the legs frozen, right? So whenever you see every day, every year, every day, every hour, every week, every day, every week, whenever he used to learn in the different styles, and that time the instructor used to lose the rope for learning himself, but that time he used to meet the terror which he faced in the swimming pool, and it was 3 months before attention began slack. Then he taught him, and then the instructor taught him that how to do my face under the water to exhale, and how to lift his face for raising and the nose and inhale, right? So then the instructor taught him that how to exhale and how to inhale inside the water. So he continuously doing the practice more than 100 times, and bit by bit he started to continuously learn to inhale and exhale in the water, right? So next he held me the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. So initially, as you know, that most probably the swimming pool will be the lengthy, but the breadth will be in a short size. So in the breadth size, so if you in the beginning age, it's very difficult to learn in the lengthy side, so it's easy to learn in the breadth side. So that's what here the next time the instructor told the author to kick with his leg on the side of the pool, so that he could easily learn the swimming by reaching the final end, right? So the command of the instructor, the author also started, the narrator also started to do the same, and after that simply the piece by piece, step by step, day by day, week by week, then finally the instructor built a swimmer that's nothing but here Douglas, right? So, and when he had perfected each piece, and he then together into the interacted world. In April, he said, now you can swim, dive, and swim in the length of the pool, crawl, stroke. So finally in the April, the narrator learned the swimming in a perfect manner, and he knows all the styles to swim and other things, right? So here the instructor had completed his work, which means he completely taught the narrator to how to swim and other things. So here what are the things he learned is nothing but the terror shaken that along the pool, and he tried it. I swam the length of the down, tiny vestiges of the old terror would return, but now I could frown and say to the terror trying to scare me, well, out of look and look off, I would go to another length of the pool, right? So here the author is telling to the water that once upon a time you made me to fear, and your terror has frozen my body, and your terror seized me, but now I am giving you challenges that I will meet you more lengthy swimming pool than you, right? So then until the July he was satisfied with his swimming. Then after that he was not sure that the terror had left, so he went to the lake Wentworth in the New Hampshire. So after July he went to the Lake Wentworth in the New Hampshire, and he dived off the dock at Traits Island, and he swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. So there he dived inside the lake of Traits Island, and there he swam 2 miles across the lake of the Stampact Island, and he swam in a different style of the crawl and a breaststroke and a side stroke and backstroke and other things all he used to. Now he is good in these are the styles of the swimming, right? So once did the terror return, and when he was in the middle of the lake, I put his face under the shore, the nothing but bottomless water. So during the crossing of the 2 miles, he faced only one time of the terror came again, which means when he was in the middle of the lake, so that time he could open his eyes and see under the bottom of the water, but he couldn't see anything except the water, which means it was full of deep. Okay, it was full of the deep, with the golden sensation returned in the miniature. And then he laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me, right? So after that completely he crossed the 2 miles, and he said that, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? Then he felt and he was very happy with the swimming and other things, right? So yet he had a residential doubt that, and his first opportunity he hurried the west and he went to Titan to Concord Meadows. Not on first opportunity is he went to Titan to Concord Meadows and up then Concord Creek trails and the Meadows Glacier and camped in the high meadows by the side of the warm lake, right? So the next morning he started diving into the lake, swam across to the other shore of the back. He just as dog Corpon used to do, he shouted with joy and Gilbert Peak. I mean, Gilbert Peak is one of the peak which is located in the United States, and with his shout, which is written the echo of the narrator voice, and he had conquered his fear on the water, right? So after that, yet he has the residual doubts that we completed, right? So the next morning, yes. So the experience had a deep meaning for me, which means from the beginning when he was at the age of 2 to 3 years, that time he got a fear on the water in the California beach, but now he overcome the fear, right? Overcome the fear with his continuous effort, even though he got a dead experience in the YMCA swimming pool, but after that still he wanted to create much interest to learn swimming. So finally he created and he achieved his success. That is nothing but he had conquered his fear of water. And sometimes usually he used to remember the words of the Roosevelt, and he said the words of the Roosevelt is nothing but all we have to fear is a fear itself. So whatever we want to fear, that should complete only with the fear. So here because with his experience here, both the sensation of dying and the terror, fear, and finally he achieved his goal that he started learning in the glaciers of the Meadows and the Concord Creek and other warm lakes and other things. So finally with his continuous efforts he completed his swimming practices, right? Thank you.